share with you a little bit about the webinar. This is the second webinar that we've had specific to updates on the Cobell settlement. As Brian introduced me, my name is Sherry Salway Black, and I'm the Director of the Partnership for Tribal Governance at NCAI. I can move to the So I'm going to review the agenda for the webinar, and I'm going to review this, then introduce the speakers, share the purpose of the webinar, and then we'll focus on the current status of the Cobell settlement, the role of the Garden City Group as the trust administrator, the status of distributions from the Office of Special Trustee, give you some information about tax and benefit implications of settlement distributions, share with you what are the resources available, and then go into the questions and discussion. As Brian referenced, you can be writing in your questions as we're going through, and then we'll have an open session at the end. We've planned for hopefully to end the formal presentation by 2:30 so we can allow the most time for questions and answers. We will, if need be, because there's a lot of questions, we will go over the 3 o'clock time period, allowing till about 3:15, but we also will have a record of the written questions, and we can follow up following this webinar. In addition, this webinar is being recorded, and people will have access to it if for some reason you need to leave or if you want to share with someone else. So I'm very happy to introduce our speakers today, and very happy to have David C. Smith, who's going to be our first speaker, and he's the class counsel and a partner in Kilpatrick and Townsend. We're also happy to have Jennifer Keough, who's the claims administrator, works for the claims administrator. She's the chief operating officer of the Garden City Group. We're also very happy to have Jim James, the deputy special trustee for field operations at the Department of Interior. And then I'll do the final concluding things before we open up into the questions from that. So I wanted to see the role of NCAI in this is we have a special initiative called Protect Native Money, which we launched last summer when there was a realization of how significant the claims were that were coming down, the settlements were coming down in Indian country with the Keough settlement, the Cobell settlement, and at the time, more than 50 tribal trust settlements. So by the end of 2013, we anticipate that more than $3 billion will come into Indian country, the majority of which is going to individuals and some of it also to tribes through these 3 settlements. So this Protect Native Money initiative, and you can go online to our website to look at more of this, has, because of the urgency behind Keough initially and then Cobell, we have focused on them. And we want to really focus on helping tribal leaders and tribal staff stay updated as to what is happening about this. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event in Indian country, and we want to know how we can help, what are the resources that people need. And so the purpose is to provide the most accurate and current information on the Cobell settlement. And many of us know or have been aware of, perhaps there have been rumors out there, and also misconceptions. I know I've responded to many questions over the holidays and in early January, and I think one of the misperceptions is that everyone in Indian country is a recipient of the money, and where is my check. But then there's also rumors and other misinformation. So we want to address concerns and answer questions that you may have about the Cobell settlement, and also to provide resource contacts for assistance and additional information. So now we're going to go and have our first speaker, again, is David C. Smith, who is class counsel and partner in Kilpatrick and Townsend. David?
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you in particular to NCAI for all the assistance they've provided. As Sherry indicated, I'm one of the class attorneys representing the Cobell class, and I want to talk about 3 things and then turn it over to Jennifer Keough at GCG, who's going to talk in more detail about the distribution of the settlement checks. First, I want to talk about why a case that settled in 2009, why payments are just being made now, why the delay. And secondly, what I want to talk about what the court has now ordered with respect to the historical accounting payments that are now being distributed, and finally talk about the second payments, the trust administration payments. When are those going to be paid? To look at that first issue, why are payments just being made now? As many of you know, the case originally settled on December 7, 2009, but it required congressional approval, and we've advocated very hard for that approval. But in this political environment, it took approximately a year for that approval, and it was finally approved in December 2010. Once there was approval, we had to go back to court, get final approval from the district court in D.C., and that occurred on July 27, 2011. At that time, the court entered an order including a payment schedule, and which set out payments commencing in 2011. But then there were 4 class members who did appeal that order and delay those payments. We asked the Court of Appeals to expedite those appeals. The court did so and issued an opinion in May 2012, and they rejected those appeals, finding they did not have substantial merit. Those individuals proceeded to petition the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court denied review, and with respect to one of those, and the remaining appellants withdrew their appeals. So finally, by November 24, 2012, all the periods for further appeals expired, and we could begin to distribute the money. If we could advance to the next slide, Sherry. So once the appeals expired, we returned to the district court and quickly asked for permission to start distributing payments. And on December 11 of this past year, the district court ordered the Garden City group, and Garden City had been appointed by the court to serve as the claims administrator, to commence payments to the first class that was to receive checks, what we call the historical accounting class, and to begin those payments by December 24, 2012, just before Christmas. Now, the historical accounting class consists of those individuals who had individual Indian money accounts open between October 25, 1994 and September 30, 2009, and had at least one transaction in that account which was not reversed. So there's been a great deal of misunderstanding about who is exactly included. So as long as you had one transaction in that account, one financial transaction, and you had an open account between those time periods, you are part of the historical accounting class. The GCG, Garden City, commenced the payments promptly. They began going out on December 14th. And Jennifer will provide some additional information, but approximately 83% of the living beneficiaries have now received payment. There are generally 4 groups we're looking at now, and those are living beneficiaries who for whom we have addresses, and the great majority of those checks have gone out. Then there are a small group of class members who there may be multiple addresses, and we're getting a number of calls, as is GCG and the Office of Special Trustee, from class members indicating where they are now located, what their current address is, and those remaining checks are going out. There's a third group of class members that are what are called whereabouts unknown. Many of those have checks have been deposited into those individuals' IIM accounts, and Jim can talk further about that. But even with respect to those, we're getting a number of calls by either GCG or us or the Office of Special Trustee from those members who realize checks are to come out and are contacting us and saying, hey, this is my address, this is where to send our check to. And the final class is the estates, those class members who have passed away. And there are a large number of those, approximately between 39,000 and 40,000 estates. And the judge ordered that those payments should go to the administrator or executor of that individual's estate. And even with respect to those, we're getting calls from individuals who are heirs to those estates and saying, this is the place to send the check to, here's the information you need. Now, one other thing the judge did on December 19, 2012 was to appoint a special master, and that special master is Judge Richard Levy. He's actually a former judge and a well-respected jurist in the District of Columbia, and has been appointed in numerous cases as special master and brings a wealth of experience. And he is to handle a number of areas. He's supposed to assist with decisions regarding distributions where there is no address for a beneficiary, to make sure every effort is made to see that the check gets to the right person at the right address. Number two, he's going to assist with those distributions involving estates, those approximately 40,000 estates, to make sure those checks get to the correct beneficiary, and also to oversee the trust administration process, which is the second set of checks that will be going out later this year. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Jennifer's going to talk a little bit more about the historical accounting check distribution, but I want to touch on the trust administration payments because we get a lot of questions. Okay, I've received my first check, when are the second checks coming? As part of the judge's order, he opened up the claims process for the trust administration class till March 1, 2013. So a number of people don't have to file claim forms. If you have or if you are received a historical accounting check and you currently receive IIM statements at your home address and they have your current address on file, you do not need to file a claim form. But for other people who believe they are part of the trust administration class, you should file a claim form. They should be postmarked and delivered to GCG by March 1st, 2013. Who is part of this class? It's a little bit different than the historical accounting class. It includes individuals who had an IIM account back to roughly 1985. That's when the Department of Interior began putting these records on their electronic systems. So even if you didn't have an open account in 1994, but you did have one between 1985 and 1994, you may be a member of the trust administration class. It also covers individuals who may have owned trust land on September 30th, 2009. So again, if you had an interest in trust land on that date, you need to fill out a claim form and make sure it's postmarked and delivered to GCG by March 1, 2013. Once those claim forms are filed and processed, there's a procedure the judge has set up for consideration of those claims. Initially, Garden City Group will make a determination of eligibility, and they need to do so by April 15th. And for those that were, for whatever reason, denied eligibility, those individuals have a right to request reconsideration by May 15, 2013. And for any remaining ones that are denied eligibility, about June 14, a GCG can make a second determination of eligibility. Let's go ahead and advance to the next slide. And finally, any further issues regarding eligibility will be must be postmarked by July 15, and the special master will have an opportunity to review those and make final determinations of eligibility. So there's a fairly complete process for consideration of any trust administration claims. And as you can see from the schedule, it's unlikely that that second group of checks will go out until late summer, early fall of 2013. As I indicated before, we are receiving a lot of calls and a lot of questions, and we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to talk to us and to make sure the checks go where they're intended to go. If you have any questions at all, on the screen is the number for the Garden City Group, and their phone number 800-961-6109. They've received a large volume of calls and have provided can provide very helpful information. We also want individuals to have the opportunity to contact us if they want to talk to the class attorneys or have concerns about their payments. You can reach us at 866-383-6554, and we will respond promptly and make sure we address those issues. Okay.
Thank you very much, David. Our next speaker is going to be Jennifer Keough from the Garden City Group. Jennifer?
Thank you, Sherry. Good afternoon, everyone. The Garden City Group is a legal administration company that's been in the business of implementing class action settlements and other judgments for over 25 years. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer of the Garden City Group, and what it means to be a legal administration company is it means that we serve as an agent of the court to implement these settlements. So we design like Visa, MasterCard, Cobell, this one here, but that's what GCG does. In this case, the court appointed GCG to handle administration tasks and distribute the funds according to the parties' settlement agreement. Can you go ahead and go to the next slide, please? Can you go to the next slide, please? There you go. Part of GCG's responsibility under the settlement agreement was to take the contact information provided to GCG by the Department of Interior and to use that data to commence the distribution to the historical class members no later than December 24th. On December 14th, GCG commenced that distribution and mailed out over 90% of the checks to the approximate 328,000 historical class members. Then, on December 21st, we deposited the 54,900 awards that the court ordered for the whereabouts unknown minors that David was talking about earlier that were to be deposited back into their IIM accounts. Since the December 17th distribution, we've located and received numerous telephone calls from class members and have been able to locate an additional 20,100 updated addresses, and all of those checks have been sent as well. We are working on the approximate 40,000 remaining estate awards where further documentation is needed to determine who the checks should be made payable to. And then finally, there's 4,000 historical class members where we have their funds for their checks, but we just need their updated address information. Next slide, please. Since the initial distribution, which commenced, like I said, on December 14th, we received to our call center over 750,000 calls. Some of the more popular questions that I thought you might be interested in appear on this slide, and we get all the time in the call center and to our email accounts. And one of them is, what address did GCG use? Well, we used the contact information provided by the Department of Interior pursuant to the court's order, or we used the address provided by the class member if they provided an address to us that was more updated than the address that the Department of Interior had in its records. Another question that we get is, well, why didn't you send all the checks out at once? Well, we didn't send all the checks out at once for the reasons that we talked about in the prior slide, where we needed updated address information, or the amounts needed to be wired back to the Department of Interior for the IAM accounts, or like we discussed, the estates. But 90% of the checks went out by the 17th. Another question that we get is, well, why did some people have their award deposited into the IAM accounts? The court's order of December 11th required GCG to send that money back for minors, whereabouts unknown accounts, and the restricted accounts. And those were to be paid into the IAM accounts. Another very popular question is, what should I do if I received a check for a deceased family member? If you received a check for a deceased family member, return that check to the Indian Trust Settlement P.O. Box and provide supporting documentation regarding the executor or a probate order from a state or tribal court, and we'll reissue that check. Another question that we get is, what do I need to do to get my check reissued? To get your check reissued, you need to call the Indian Trust Settlement Helpline, and we'll walk you through the steps depending on why you need it reissued. Some folks need their check reissued because they haven't received their check yet because we didn't have an updated address. Some folks can't get their check cashed at the bank because their name has changed because they've been married. So we'll take your individual circumstance and we'll walk you through how to get that check reissued. Next slide, please.
Sorry, it takes looking through it just takes a little bit to pull up that next slide.
No problem. I thought it would be interesting for you to see what feedback GCG has received to date regarding the distribution. In the last 30 days alone, like I said, GCG has taken over 700,000 calls. What we've done to try to accommodate all those calls is extend our hours and work the holidays and work Saturdays to assist class members so that we can get you the answers that you need as quickly as possible. We've also received a ton of hits to the website. We've received over 1.8 million people have come and visited the website since the www.indiantrust.com site has gone up. We also have an email account, and the email account, info@indiantrust.com, has received over 70,000 emails today. Checks so far have been issued to over 99% of all living historical class members. And as David said when he spoke, thus far, over 84% of the living class members have received their payment or cashed their check. 99% of the remaining class members to be issued are the ones that we discussed, where they have no address on file currently or they're deceased. So what's next for GCG in the implementation? We're working on the distribution to the estates. There's approximately 40,000 estates that we're working on. As David talked about, the next step after that will be the trust administration class, and the deadline to file claims for that class is March 1st, 2013. GCG is already working through the claim forms that we've received and assessing the eligibility, and will be adhering to the court schedule that David mentioned during his presentation.
Great, thank you, Jennifer, very much. You can advance for the next one. That was Jennifer Keough from the Garden City Group. And next we're going to have Jim James from the Office of Special Trustee. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am, Sherry. Thank you. First of all, Sherry, thank you very much for setting this up, and to NCAI for taking an interest in this important initiative protecting Native money. As Sherry introduced me, I am the Deputy Special Trustee for Field Operations with the Office of the Special Trustee for American Indians within the Department of the Interior. I wanted to very briefly just go over our limited role under the terms of the Cobell Settlement Agreement. As David and Jennifer both pointed out, right now the only payments that have been authorized by the court and that have been going out are what are called the historical accounting class of Stage 1 payments of $1,000 per beneficiary. Garden City Group is responsible for issuing all those payments. And as Jennifer just pointed out, it's been pretty successful thus far overall. Our limited role has been, under the terms of the settlement agreement, to receive those payments for restricted account holders, and I think both David and Jennifer mentioned them, such as minors, non-compos mentis, adults in need of assistance, or individuals under a legal disability, into existing IIM accounts, or to open new IIM accounts if those individuals do not have a current IIM account. And then also to receive funds into the IIM accounts for those individual class members who don't have a current address on file, and what they're referred to as whereabouts unknown, and that's the acronym WAU. Once the funds get into our account system, they are all treated as trust funds. And so, in other words, once they're in there, they will be invested, they will continue to earn income, and we'll hold them until we have information from either the individual or that is verified from the information we receive from the Garden City Group to release the money for the whereabouts unknown individuals. As Jennifer pointed out, the wire transfer was initiated by Garden City Group before Christmas on December 21st, but was not received by the Office of the Special Trustee on December 26th. It was the complete amount included both funds for the whereabouts unknown as well as the restricted account holders. Of the almost $55 million, almost $35 million of that amount is designated for people whose address we need to get current. We have an ongoing, as part of the regular course of our business, we are always looking for folks whose addresses have lapsed so that we can make sure we get to them their current statements of performance if they own Indian trust land, and also to send out to disperse any money to them if they're, if we can, or to take instructions from them as to what they would like us to do with the money. We can make third-party distributions. We can hold the money for folks if they like. And as of a couple of days ago, or yesterday, I mean, we have distributed over $6 million to individuals who are no longer on that WAU list. Our offices, both in the field, the agency offices where we're located with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or our trust beneficiary call center here in Albuquerque, have been averaging about 450 account updates every day. As Jennifer pointed out, some of those questions she posted earlier are the same types of questions that we receive on a regular basis. We initiated calls with the Garden City Group shortly after the first payments were mailed out on, I believe, December 17th, because there's the volume of call, the surge in inquiries is so great, both at Garden City Group and our offices, that we need to collaborate to make sure that we can respond accurately and currently about what's going on with this settlement and to assist our beneficiaries wherever we can. Our trust beneficiaries call center in Albuquerque has capacity of about 25,000 calls a month, and our average before the Cobell settlement payments went out was about 18,000 calls a month. In just short of 3 weeks, we were almost at 20,000 beneficiary contacts that were documented not only at the call center but also at the field offices. And over a third of those are related to Cobell inquiries. So although we are working diligently to respond to all of the inquiries, the staff, needs is trying to do their best, the best that we can with the amount of resources that we currently have. But the Garden City Group remains the best source of information from anyone who thinks they are a class member or who is a class member and who needs to either update their address or find out whether or not, or have questions about whether or not they're entitled to either stage 1 or the trust administration class payment. The accounts the money that we have taken in or that we have received for the restricted account holders, those individuals who are minors or as we mentioned earlier, have some sort of restriction, will be managed under our current regulatory requirements as well as existing policies. So we need to talk to those individuals or their guardians to make sure that we have the correct information, we correctly identify and verify information before we can distribute those funds. And part of that for the restricted account holders is going to require a certain degree of collaboration with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the development of distribution plans. So those are the that type of very specific information we will be putting out there. We've already had discussions with the Bureau of Indian Affairs about how that will work. It's not going to be any different than what we do right now. I want to encourage everyone, though, that may be on the call, and tribal leaders particularly, that may be able to get the message into their communities, that if you do have an individual Indian money account, once the account information is updated, please try to keep it current, because as David and Jennifer both mentioned, not only are these stage 1 payments, that are currently ongoing, going to occur or have occurred, but there are other stage 2 payments that may be coming later on, and obviously, in order to get those payments directly to people and hopefully increase the success rate from 84% to higher, we need to know where people receive their mail. And just, for information later down the road, as part of the historic Cobell Settlement, there is an additional land buyback project that is just getting underway. There are some consultation meetings that are scheduled in the near future, December 31st, February 6th, December 31st in Minneapolis, February 6th in Rapid City, and February 14th in Seattle. And that is also, if people are willing sellers of fractionated land interests, we're going to need to know, the department's going to need to know what the best address is to contact these folks. So it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that once the account is updated, that any changes are we're notified about. That's all I have, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to David and Jennifer as well. We just have a few more slides that I'm going to go through very quickly, but one of the questions that people seem to have is about the tax and benefit implications of the Cobell money. And it was included in the legislation that the settlement funds are not considered income for tax, and also they're not considered income for benefit eligibility. So we're going to, through NCAI and working with other groups, try to get that information out to the organizations and programs that do tax counseling, the VITA programs, and others. And it is on our website, this link that I put here. If you go to the Protect Native Money webpage on NCAI's site, you have the link to the bill that you can pull up. And we're going to make sure that, as many folks, and we need a network to do that, know this when you're doing taxes. So on to the next slide. We have, I wanted to pull together all of the resources that were mentioned throughout. So you have the resources there for Garden City Group, the Class Council, Office of Special Trustee, and the National Congress of American Indians, if you do have questions. The next slide. So we're going to move into questions right now, and I have just put a few down to kind of have you think about these, and we may not, hear from folks today about the answers to this, but if you wanted to send any information to me about what you're hearing in your community, one of the things that we did try to mitigate right before the holidays and throughout the holidays are some people had issues cashing the checks, so we were able to help in certain circumstances on that. And, but we'd like to hear more about that, primarily really to prevent it the next time. What seemed to be the most common problems, we talked about the check cashing. Did we see people who were set up for fraud, or people tried to scam with that? So information about taxes. What information do you think needs to be out in Indian country, and what would you recommend for information resources that could benefit you and the class members? And if we needed to do another webinar. So just to think about those. We're going to go to questions now, and people have been writing in questions as we've been going along. And what we'll do is we'll sort of do back and forth. We'll have one where we'll unmute, someone will raise their hand and want to do a question on the phone, and then we'll select some from this list. If we don't get to all of these questions, again, we have as much as a half an hour to get through these. I said we would go over 3 o'clock, but we won't go past 3:15. And we will follow up. All of the speakers will get these questions, and we'll get back to you. So let's see if we want to start with someone unmuting someone, or do you want to?
So we'll go ahead and start answering questions now. I see that Stephen Powell has a question. I will go ahead and unmute your line right now.
Hello?
Hello, Stephen. We can hear you.
Okay. My question is, I want to know about 4 heirs whose mother passed away a year and a half ago that filed her claim for the historical class, and they were beneficiaries, and how would the money be distributed between the 4 of them? She's a part of the administration. She was a part of the administration and historical class.
And could you just restate the specific question? You're wondering what the status is for the heirs of this person?
Yeah. What are the status on the 4 heirs? How would they receive their money? What do they need to do to file for the claim?
Okay. On our speakers, who would like to address that?
Sherry, I can address that, and then maybe Jennifer can as well. It sounds, Steve, it sounds like from what you just said that the individual was a class member, passed away after the settlement was approved. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in those cases, under the judge's order he entered last month, the check is to go to the executor or administrator of that individual's estate. And I don't know if in the circumstance anybody has been appointed in that position, but any documentation should be provided to Jennifer's group, Garden City, regarding who the beneficiaries are, who is handling the estate affairs. If there is no executor or administrator, under the judge's order, the special master, Judge Levy, is going to make determinations regarding how that money should be distributed.
And is that due by March 1st?
No, that that process is is all already underway. So if the individual is already a member of are they a member of the historical accounting class? Do you know, or were they?
Yes, they were.
Okay. I mean that they are already included. Do not need to file a claim form.
Okay, thank you, David, and thank you, Stephen. We're going to go ahead and read one.
Okay, so a question that was typed in was an individual that stated they are one of 3 owners of an allotment in Alaska. They have an IAM account for years. Their address has changed, but they didn't receive a payment or any info on the settlement.
Okay. I'd be happy to address that one as well, and Jennifer, perhaps you can. If you have not received a payment, anybody who has not received a payment, and they're entitled to a payment, it's because for whatever reason there's confusion over the address, and I encourage those individuals to call the Garden City Group, the helpline 800-961-6109. I know their call volume is very high, and sometimes the wait times during certain periods of the day can be long. But I encourage them to call that number to provide information, and if they have any problems at all, want to talk to us, to call us 866-383-6554. We take these calls every day. People who haven't received checks and don't know why, we provide that the updated information to GCEG, and they are always very quick in responding and contacting the class member and making sure the check is to the right place.
And David, this is Jennifer. They can also email us.
Great. Thank you. We're going to take one who has their hand raised and take them off mute here. Brian?
Yeah, we have a question from Jacqueline Avery. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
I don't have a question right now. I came in late because I couldn't get through, so I'm just listening.
Okay, let's see. We'll go ahead and move on to Susan Flora. I'll go ahead and unmute your line right now.
Hi.
Hi, we can hear you, Susan.
I just accidentally hit the hand sign too. I'm sorry.
If you want. Okay. Just ask them.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a question that's been typed in. I'm seeing a lot of questions regarding checks that were sent to the wrong address, and there are some inquiries being made as when a reissuance check will be made.
I said, you said the distribution shouldn't affect federal programs. What about state programs such as temporary assistance for needy families, assisted living facilities? Do you want me to raise my hand? And
no, we can hear you now. So I don't know if David, if you wanted to address that. And it was about what about state benefits? Are they also?
I had trouble hearing that question. I'm sorry.
When I mentioned about the tax and the benefit implications, she had a question. It relates to federal. Does it also relate to state?
Okay. The legislation covers specifically federal taxation in federal programs. Many of those state programs are federal programs administered by the state, so those would apply as well. And in many cases, and this is true of the the tribal trust settlements as well, the states have made determinations that this money will not affect benefits. So it depends on the particular program in the particular state, but in many cases that this settlement will not affect those benefits.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? And
if you want to contact us, and we can discuss specifically the program and issue. Maybe I would give you better information about that.
Okay, next we have a question from Jenneray Boyd. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Did you see my posted question? I have raised my hand as well, but I wrote a question out in the chat, and my question is: we had class members who had kept their IIM account updated with OST under the assumption that it would roll over to the Garden City group, and my question was, what was the date that the Garden City group used, or the last date used for the addresses that they sent that first class round of checks out to? Not that the date's important, but it's important for the next round of checks. Do these class members, when they come to us and ask for advice, do they need to keep their address updated with OST and the Garden City group, or is the Garden City group going to pull those addresses from OST again, and is there a cutoff date?
A good question. So Jennifer, maybe, and Jim, or whoever wants to go first.
We will be getting updated address information from OST. So if your address information is updated with OST, that is the information where the checks will be sent.
On a regular basis, is there a up to a certain date? Because I know we had a few that kept theirs updated quite often, but the address that the check was sent to was from 2009, which I figured was around the time the case was settled, and that maybe those addresses weren't pulled from OST again after that date. So if there's a cutoff date again, it would be helpful for me so that I can help the people in this area know, okay, they're going to pull it from OST, but if you move after this date, you'll need to contact the Garden City group. So is there a cutoff date?
That's a very good question, and the addresses were updated this fall to the maximum extent possible, and then they'll be updated again about 60 days prior to the next distribution. But,
okay.
but when in doubt, the website that we have, the www.indiantrust.com website, it has a registration button on it that allows folks to update their addresses through the website if they don't want to call the toll-free number.
Okay.
And let me just add, this is Jim. There is regular exchanges of information between the Garden City group and the Department of the Interior through the Office of the Special Trustee. So there's information, address updates that individuals are providing directly to Garden City group should be coming over to the department, and likewise, any updates that individuals make to their IIM accounts will also be forwarded through our contractor to GCG.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Thanks, Jim and Jennifer.
Okay, and another question that we've had is if an account holder is deceased and the spouse is non-Indian, but there are children, was the money paid out to the spouse, or is it reserved for the children?
And apologies, can you repeat that question again? I'm not sure I caught all of it.
Yeah, the question was, if an account holder is deceased and the spouse is a non-Indian, but they have children, was the money paid out to the spouse, or is it reserved to the children?
Okay, if the class member is deceased, it will be distributed according to whatever probate law is applicable, whether it be a state or tribal probate process. So, it really depends on what that process is, how the money is going to be distributed.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to someone who has their hand up. We have somebody.
I have Sabrina Savo. I'm muting your line.
Hello.
We have a question here. The next distribution for the historic class, will those be at the same time as the trust class at the end of August?
I can address that, and then Jennifer as well. The historical accounting payments are being continually made, so there's no reason to wait till August or September when the trust administration payments go out. So, as addresses are updated and as additional information is provided regarding estates, those checks will be sent out.
Well, and for someone who's already received their historical accounting check, there will not be another historical.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Yes, for someone who has received their historical accounting check, the trust administration payments will not be made until late summer, early fall of this year.
Okay.
Thank you for your question. We're going to go to a written one now.
How will this affect non-service connected veterans as far as taxable income or exempt income?
Okay, there's a number of questions in there, and again, with respect to those that are still in probate and no executor. If they're under the court order that was entered last month, the checks have to be made to a executor or administrator of the estate. And if there is no executor or administrator who's been appointed, then that determination as to how the money will be distributed and who the check is issued to is made under the jurisdiction of the special master. So we need to wait to see what decisions he makes regarding distribution. And with respect to the taxation, it is exempt from federal or income tax regardless of veteran status, if I understand the question correctly.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have a question from the audience. Tina Figueroa, I'm going to unmute your line.
Hello. I actually have a couple questions. I guess the main one I have right now, because I came in late, is this webinar going to be online somewhere after it's completed?
Yes.
Okay. Another one that I had is you said that if they're minors, non-comp, adults, so-and-so, that they'll be put in an IM account. Will the families be notified of this IM account?
Sherry, this is Jim.
Yes.
If those individuals already have an IIM account, which under normal circumstances they would, we were only to receive the money and place them into those IIM accounts. The parent or guardian should already be identified in the periodic statements of performance that we send out every quarter. And so,
well, the problem is that with my tribe, with the Oneida Tribe of Indians of Wisconsin, we went self-governance in 1993, and they had closed out most of the accounts. So we have like these small 2-cent balances in most of the accounts, or under, it's usually under $1. I'd say 95% of our accounts are under $1 because most of them were cashed out when we went self-governance. And they might not know that they're going to be getting that money in there, put into their accounts. Because at the time they may only have a zero, if they have their land on, if they have individual trust property, they're automatically set up an account with a zero balance. So they wouldn't necessarily know that this was being put in there unless the guardian was aware of this Cobell.
Right, and what I'm suggesting under, even if there isn't any activity or it's very small, if there is a deposit into that account, that is going to generate during the next quarter a statement because it's more than $15.
Okay, so then they will get a statement after it's put in the IM account. So they are aware.
Time frame.
Right, and again, if you do have a question, you can type it in the question box or signal by raising your hand on the control pane. We do have a typed question that states that part of their family received a check in the mail, but some were told that it went to their IIM account. They were wondering what they can do to verify that information.
This is Jim again. I can take a crack at it, but I think maybe Jennifer can help me. I'm not sure where that information was coming from. If it was coming from the Garden City group, it's still important for that individual to update their addresses with Garden City group. But they can also, if they said it was sent to their IIM account, our normal course of business is to have that individual contact either their local home agency or the trust beneficiary call center. And earlier, Sherry, in one of the slides, you had posted the number as well as the email.
Correct. Yeah, there's that one slide that has all resources on. I would think it could also be that the the money for that different range of groups, whereabouts unknown, minors, non-compos mentis, adults under legal disability, that perhaps some of the family members also fall into one of that category as well, where someone may have gotten their check, and then if the other person is a minor or in one of these other categories, then they wouldn't. Maybe that's also, I would think that's also a potential reason.
Sherry, this is Jennifer. That's correct. We have several situations just as you described.
Okay. Great.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a question from the line. Melinda Lockenoff-Baker, you are unmuted.
I'd like to know the Alaska Natives. They're asked for information for this NABN number. Can the tribes get their own list for their heirs? And how can we help expedite their information?
Did the speakers hear that question?
Yeah, it sounded like how do we get the NBN numbers and how can tribes help facilitate that? Jim, is that a question you have information on?
Sure. We shouldn't need that. All we should need is their IIM number, not the NABN number.
I really think it's a Garden City group question, but because they're primarily responsible for identifying, members of who are eligible class members, and then to issue the payments. And David, you can help me with this, but my understanding of the settlement itself is that it was in the name of individual class members. It was not a tribal claim.
Yeah, that's correct. And maybe I can ask the questioner: is there a particular problem that's being experienced that you need to have addressed?
owners, our native allotment owners. And if we could get a list to help out our tribes, that'd be great.
Okay. How about we do this? My number is there on the website, and let's talk about that further, and I can try to figure out how we can help you with that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And next question we have is, who do we contact regarding the higher education scholarship funds for tribes?
And I would imagine that has to do with the $60 million scholarship funds. I'm not sure who might want to address that piece.
Right. As part of the settlement, there is a scholarship fund that has been established, and over time money will be placed into that settlement. And I believe the Department of Interior is still in the process of determining who is going to head up that scholarship fund and working on establishing policies and procedures. So it may be premature right now to talk to Interior about that, but I believe shortly those policies will be established, and there will be contact information about that.
Right. This is Jim again. I would second what David just said. It is in development, and there will be announcements, once it gets further along.
And I think we're going to go with maybe 2 more questions. One from a member who has their participant who has their hand up, and then we'll do another one that's written. Again, as I mentioned, if you have your questions on here, we're going to go through them when we're done and categorize them. Perhaps there's 10 that have to deal with a particular way, and we'll provide one answer in there. So we will be working on those. So Brian, anyone from has their hand up or on the written?
Yeah, we do have a written question. Give me 1 minute.
Okay. There's quite a few here, so it takes a while to go through the questions.
Okay, and one that we have received is, are realty staff of compact tribes still under the judge's gag order?
Jim, I'm probably not the best person to advise employees of BIA regarding that. Do you have any?
I don't. I'm sorry. I would defer to our solicitor's office on that one. Sherry, if we can get the location and the name of the person who submitted the question, we can get back directly to that individual.
Okay, we'll do that. And again, in some of these, we're not going to have the immediate answer to that question, but we will get back to it.
Yeah, and I think it's a good question because not only would it affect the particular caller, but other tribes who are similarly situated.
Okay. Well, last final question.
Okay, we have a question. Will you give the tribes a list of people you are searching for so we can help those tribal members get in touch with you in a quicker time frame?
And I can start it, and then Jennifer, David, if you guys want to jump in. We have currently our whereabouts unknown list that's posted on our website, and that is also on one of the slides that that was in the presentation. What we have done so far is we have posted a list of the WAU names that we received from Garden City Group that are attached to that $39 million. Right now, those have been they're posted on the Office of the Special Trustee Field Operations SharePoint site, so that our staff and all of the communities that we provide services to can access them. They currently have some additional information that's sensitive under the Privacy Act and can't be released right now to the tribes. We're in the process of scrubbing that a little bit so that maybe we can just post the names. But in terms of access to the current WAU list that the department maintains, that's on the Office of the Special Trustee website, and that's on one of the slides that is included in this presentation.
Yeah, and I can follow up on that a little bit. You know, one of the responsibilities of the special master under the judge's order last month is to assist in distribution of checks to individuals where there is no current address or known address, and that's certainly one of the options he has, and to enlist tribal support to identify class members, and certainly that's one thing we've discovered after 16 years of litigation dealing with this whereabouts unknown list. It's often very helpful to be on the ground level at the tribal level and help identify some of these individuals. So it's a good question.
Great. Well, thank you again, and thanks everyone for your participation. I'd be anxious to hear, did you think this was helpful? Obviously, we didn't have time to get through all the questions, and should we hold another webinar? And I wanted to let people know that the Administration on Native Americans, the Administration on Children and Families, the other HHS agencies next week, a week from today actually, are going to be doing a webinar for their grantees, who are a lot of the social service groups in communities on reservations. So that webinar, while it's going to focus on the settlements, it's going to look at, it's going to also talk about the implications on benefits and have some additional information. I'm not sure if it's just limited to their grantees, and I'll try to get some information out about that. NCAI will be meeting with the special master at the end of this month to find out the kind of information that we might be helpful in providing to him, and getting people's ideas of how perhaps to get information about this out, trying to locate these folks would be very helpful. So we'll try to keep everyone apprised on that. So thank you again for your participation. I think we had probably over close to 150 participants on this, and we'll also get back with the questions and be posting this recording online. Thanks to our speakers, and thanks to Brian for helping with the webinar today. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you.